Ito ang Kwentuhang Bayan mula alas 11 ng umaga tuwing Biyernes dito lang sa Radyo-Katipunan 87.9 FM. Dahil naniniwala kami na posible ang isang mas mabuting lipunan at maaari itong simulan sa isang kwentuhan.
Getting reliable health information about the COVID-19 outbreak can be a lifesaver. In times of crisis, it is essential to guarantee freedom of expression and the right to public information, in particular to counter the spread of disinformation. During the COVID-19 outbreak, only trust official information sources and credible media outlets. Do not share unverified information. This is a message from UNESCO.
Radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, katipunan, radyo, katipunan, radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, radyo, katipunan. Voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay at tenista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng kwela. Radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, radyo, katipunan, radyo, katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, katipunero, sugod, todo sa kayod, dunong at tulog, lipat na Blue Eagle, galing giting nagigil, blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, radyo, katipunan, radyo, radyo, katipunan, radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, katipunan.
Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. Rejoice, refresh, renew, and reflect. Join us for an hour of music that uplifts the soul. Listen to your favorite Jesuit music ministry artists. This is JMM Radio. JMM Radio. Get your day's dose of inspirational music. Tune in to JMM Radio every Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. Only here on Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. Tara na't simulan ng inyong umaga sa mga magagandang refleksyon tungkol sa ating buhay at pananampalataya. Kasama sina Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle ng Manila, Father JBoy Gonzales at Father Nono Alfonso ng Kapisanan ni Jesus, Father Cali Llamado ng Manila Cathedral, at Binibining Risa Singson Kaupeng ng Light of Jesus Community dito sa Kapit Pandasal sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. The Jesuit Hour. Get to know the Jesuits. Discover their spirituality, their history, their ministries. The Jesuit Hour. Anything Jesuit, everything Jesuit. The Jesuit Hour.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ear.
Do you long for a good spiritual read? Or for literature that not only feeds the mind, but nourishes the soul as well? Do you want to be inspired, feel positive and hopeful about life? Then read The Windhover, the official magazine of the Jesuits in the Philippines. Written by Jesuits and their lay partners, The Windhover features real stories about the Jesuits and their various ministries. Be inspired. Be blessed. Subscribe to The Windhover. For inquiries, call the Philippine Jesuit Aid Association at telephone numbers 426-6001, locals 4890 or 4892. Once again, Philippine Jesuit Aid Association, telephone numbers 426-6001, locals 4890 or 4892.
Kaibigan, alam mo na ba kung anong dapat gawin upang iwasan at sugpuin ang COVID-19? Iwasang hawakan ng bibig, mata at ilong. Laging maghugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig sa loob ng 20 segundo. Linisin ang mga bagay na palaging hinahawakan. Kumain ng balanse at masusustansyang pagkain. Matulog ng sapat, huwag magpupuyat. Stay home. Sa wastong pag-iingat, ang virus hindi kakalat. COVID-19, kayang-kaya nating tapusin.
We are now on YouTube. Watch all of our live episodes plus exclusive content in our channel at radyo-katipunan FM. Don't forget to click subscribe and hit the bell to get the latest updates. Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
JESCom Music Ministry, your daily dose of inspiration. Follow jescom.ph on Spotify and JESCom Music on YouTube. We are also on iTunes and Deezer.
Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM.
And there was another drive-by shooting
fire we
today
reported at
downtown.
the fire hall
Police
is still burning out.
Do you sometimes feel confused or lost in the complications and complexities of life? Do you feel drained, listless, or exhausted from the daily burdens and responsibilities? Why not seek our campus ministers on air every Tuesday from 2 to 3 in the afternoon? Listen to our counselors from the Loyola School's Campus Ministry Office as they ground our lives in our faith, in our school's spiritual tradition. Campus Ministers on Air. Be guided, be inspired, be blessed. Listen to our Campus Ministers on Air.
Getting reliable health information about the COVID-19 outbreak can be a lifesaver. If you are not certain about what you see on social media about the coronavirus, do not share it or like it. Do some fact-checking by cross-checking sources or by visiting the World Health Organization's website. If it's proven to be false, don't hesitate to let people know by commenting and adding the source. During the COVID-19 outbreak, only trust official information sources and credible media outlets. Do not share unverified information. This is a message from UNESCO.
Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM. We are now on YouTube. Watch all of our live episodes plus exclusive content in our channel at Radyo Katipunan FM. Don't forget to click subscribe and hit the bell to get the latest updates.
Jesuit Music Ministry, your daily dose of inspiration. Follow jescom.ph on Spotify and Jescom Music on YouTube. We are also on iTunes and Deezer.
Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Boys of the Blue Eagle kami, di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpa at tama. Buhay atenista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng pera. Radyo, radyo, katipunan. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, katipunero sugo. Todo sa kayod, tunong at tulong. Lipad na Blue Eagle, galing hiding at tigil. Blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, radyo, katipunan.
The Jesuit Hour.
Wait, what? No! Let's try that again. Join the fun bunch of the Hugot Hour with Father JBoy as we talk about anything and everything under the sun. Share your everyday Hugot moments and everyday Hugot quotes. G, tara na! Usap tayo. Bring your own baon. Bring your own Hugot. The Hugot Hour with Father JBoy and friends is now in session.
Magandang gabi po mga katipuneros at katipuneras. Welcome to Radio Katipunan's The Hugot Hour, and I am your host, Father JBoy Gonzales of the Society of Jesus. There is a term I always love, especially with regards to leadership. It's called the Rubicon Factor. What's the Rubicon Factor and where does it come from? Well, it is taken from a very insignificant river. It's really very, very small, very, very shallow, and sometimes it dries up with a hint of drought. But in the time of Julius Caesar, at around 49 BC, the Rubicon River divides northern Italy, which was under him, and Rome, which was controlled by Pompey, who is his arch rival. If Julius Caesar would cross the river with his army, and he was about to, it would mean civil war. But if there was a compelling reason to control it, well, it would save Rome from misgovernment and to bring about peace. A state misruled cannot really long endure. So if Julius Caesar would stay where he was, he would gain nothing. However, there's this biographer and historian, his name is Suetonius, who recorded that Caesar stood in two minds, dalawang iniisip, dalawang options. And then, roused from a very deep thought, Caesar called out, "Let us accept this as a sign from the gods and follow where they beckon in vengeance on our double-dealing enemies. Alea iacta est. The die is cast." Without exclamation, Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon River and he saved Rome from doom. What does it take to decide, to act, to break through? What is the nature of decisiveness? Does everyone have it, or only an exceptional few? We'll try to answer some of these questions with our very special guest tonight. They're members of the Davao for Leni Movement, and really it is a surprise that there are many people here in Davao, where I am, who does not support the present government. I know it would need audacity or courage to organize this movement in the very bulwark of the present government. They have crossed the Rubicon. So once again, this is Father JBoy Gonzales, and the Hugot Hour is now in session.
Attention please.
Tara na! Grab your baon box. The Hugot Hour is now in session.
Okay, yes! Nandito na tayo, and I'm very happy to introduce to you our guest tonight. First of all, you have a Davaoenyo, purong-purong taga Davao, and he's now working in Manila. He's one of the proponents of the Davao for Leni Movement, and he has a lot of stories for all of us tonight. So please welcome Jed Lariega, or Jed Avic siya ngayon, di ba?
Hello, Father.
Hi, Jed. Say hello to everyone who's listening to us.
Hello, everyone. Maayong gabi ka na. Naminaw ka rin.
Naminaw ka rin, Jed. Besides, kay tanan, no?
Oo, good.
Aron obvious nga gikan gyud tag Mindanao alang-alang, di ba? And of course, my good friend, he's here in his personal capacity as a member of the Davao for Leni Movement. However, he's also part of the Ateneo de Davao community, and we're together. He's the assistant to the president for advocacies, and I'm very happy to have him with me. And he said one of the most iconic of all in an interview. He said, not all people in Davao City are DDS supporters. Nax. So please welcome Attorney Romeo or Meong Cabarde Jr.
Hi, Father. Mayong gabi.
Ayan.
Tanan nga mga nagapaminaw, nagasubay sa Hugot Hour. Good evening, everyone. Yes, tunood na, Father. Dili tanang Davaoenyo DDS, and I'll stand for that. The fact alone nga na ipipila nga ni join sa Davao for Leni Movement proves the fact that not everyone is a supporter, not even an admirer of the president. Mayong gabi, all the way from Davao.
And also, di ba, it actually removes the fact that we always think that, this one is the bulwark of Bongbong Marcos in the Ilocos, or maybe of Leni and everything in Bicol. But that's not true, di ba? Hindi talaga siya solid. Wala talagang solid, di ba? So I think one of the things na kailangan natin makita na ang iba-iba ang dinadaanan ng mga tao at iba-iba paniwala. At yun ang kailangan natin i-highlight na pwede natin tanggalin yung ganong klaseng bias para mas titingnan natin kung bakit ba mga tao hindi na nagsusuporta ng ganon, dapat solid tayo lahat. Di ba? Meron ng kanyang pag-iisip. So nandito si Attorney Meong Cabarde at saka si Jed. At meron siguro tayong mga ibang sasama at sisingit ngayong gabi. Kahit hindi ko sila nalagay sa poster. Pero ang ating gusto kong bagitin ay si Maglana, our NGO worker who is now running for Congress. At syempre, she will be head-to-head with Pulong Duterte, right?
Yes.
But the courage that is with her is really exceptional. Except that she is on the road and will be coming from Lake Cebu. So I hope she'll be able to arrive in time. If not, maybe some other time. Di ba? Pwede naman tayo magkwentuhan na ang tinatawag dyan ay pwede naman tayo magkwentuhan na
mahaba-habang
masasagot. Mahaba-habang usapan at masasagot natin ang iba nating mga tanong, lalo-lalo na sa mga tanong natin tungkol sa Davao for Leni. Kasi ako mismo, to me talaga, it's really a surprise. Bakit surprise? Kasi akala ko, puro-puro pag Mindanao, di ba? At saka, kahit maraming mga tao, ganun yung pag-iisip. Tapos biglang lumabas nga kayo ng, with all the courage, out na out, kumaga. Out na out. Kaya, ito muna, ang pinakauna kong tanong, totoo lang, ay heto. Paano nagsimula ang lahat ng to? Jed, alam kong ikaw talaga makakasagot nito, kapatid. Jed, kwentuhan mo naman kami. Kahit ako, curious talaga ako. Hindi ko talaga alam.
So, nagsimula officially ang Davao for Leni page noong June. But before that, kasi dahil umuwi ako ng Davao, si Papa taga-Tagakpan kami. I've seen how what Davao really is. Although I grew up here in Manila, pero I spent time in Davao. Then parang I admit that Davao is a good place. Davao City is chillax place, kumbaga. But before the 2016 elections, you get to see that yung ginawang Davao myth, that it's being presented as something more than it actually is. So ever since I've been vocal about not just necessarily against the administration, but to demystify Davao City. And then this year, I started doing volunteer work for Bayanihan Ikonsulta with the VP. And I then realized, wait, is this available in Mindanao? Kasi hindi lang naman sa NCR or sa Luzon ang pandemya. And then I got into a conversation sa Twitter na yung mga tweets ko nga na dilitan ng Davao yung DDS, hindi lahat ganun ang support or yung solid ang support. There are people who siguro have not, found the courage given the situation, or are just silent, silent in their own ways. So first thing I saw is that we have to reclaim our social media spaces. For the last 5 years, pinabayaan natin ng Facebook because maraming trolls, we just didn't want to deal with Facebook. Nagharap ko sa Facebook, bakit parang walang Davao pages who would, go against the stereotype. Bakit walang ganon? Masyadong, naghanap ako, wala talaga. And then the team Leni Movement set up a meeting, and I said, imbis na group, kasi masyadong close ang group. I want people to be able to freely see kung what we have to offer. So I set up the Davao for Leni page. Originally just to be a platform where I can reintroduce Leni to people in Mindanao or in Davao in particular, at pakita din na hindi lahat ganun kalaki hindi solid ang lahat ng taga Davao as compared to what other people might think. Kasi I've been working here in Manila and they always think na, taga Davao ka. Duterte yung support mo. And sometimes it needs to be corrected. So we started with just a page. Wala talagang plano to be more than that. And nagulat na lang kami na yung reaction and reception was very warm. Siguro nga dahil it's a novelty at the beginning, na parang, meron palang ganong page. And we started creating our original content. We network with other groups as well. So ang aming unang presence ay social media lang. And I just, I'm just fortunate na to meet people online, especially si Attorney Meong and all the others on the ground sa Davao. And then at one point, we started to make it into a movement. From the page, we already have a base, an audience. People are looking at us. So far, we have 17,000 Facebook likes.
Wow.
Our reach is around 3 million. All organic yun, Father. Wala kaming budget to boost our posts. So, ayun. And then the movement became a thing of its own na rin. And then there's so many plans and activities. I'm just fortunate siguro na naging parte ako nito.
Yeah.
And to see the reaction of other people, the support, it's very heartwarming na pag-uwi ko sa Davao, may mga kasama na ako, and
Yes.
that's it. Yep.
There are many things that struck me with your sharing about the beginnings, kasi sometimes we feel that we're alone, especially if you come from a culture or from a group of people who really is very, very supportive of the current government here in Davao. So I felt the same way kasi I'm not really from Davao, I'm really from Bicol. So I'm a Bicolano. parang yung mga tao dito parang automatic alam na nila. Alam na nila, di ba? So sometimes I don't know if there will be people who will be supporting me also. However, something happened to me. Ano ba, Jed? Maybe this is a time for me to share. Mag-share na ba ako nito?
No!
No, let me first say this, no? I said something on Twitter which to me, tama naman na dapat hindi ko siya tinawag na gano'n, no? Tama naman. So that I really apologized. But I was reacting to a statement. What was the statement? The statement that you don't need good moral character to run for office, to become a senator, etc. I reacted precisely because my work is exactly that to form people with a good moral character. And many of my students are asking for even those certificates for them to be able to go to college, di ba? Kasi I am in senior high school. So that when they go to college, the college wherein they apply to would ask for a certificate of good moral character, di ba? And then you say it's not important. Okay, and then we teach theology. The very core of the school is our moral life, conscience, our choice, our advocacies, etc. They're all part of our moral life. And because of that, I said something on Twitter, which I don't think this is a good way to say it. No? So, na-kontra ko. And then, nakakuha bigla ako dyan ng death threat.
Namemohan.
Namemohan ako, correct. Tapos, biglang may mga sumusunod-sunod na sa akin yung mga guards, kung saan man nagpunta, at saka lahat-lahat na yun. So, nagka-death threat ako bigla. Ganyan. Kaya lang, that's also the time that I got some private messages from people in Davao.
Yeah.
And that's where I get to know that there are people from here that is not, that's not agree with how things are being run.
True.
So I think it's the same thing with the platform, with social media platforms, that you get people who believe in the same thing as you, with the principles that you espouse. You get to see that nakakuha ka ng mga katropa, kumbaga. Di ba? At saka si Meong kasama pala dyan. Meong, kasama ka sa katropa.
I was a late addition, Father, but just to add a bit on the history, while Jed mentioned about the platform parang officially born in June, pero yung dissent and counter-consciousness in Davao started, I think, in 2016 pa sa kasagsagan ng usapin ng Marcos burial sa libingan ng mga bayani. It was at that time, around that time na yung Conscientia Davao was born. And these are the same people that constitute the Davao for Leni now. It was convened primarily by Mags, as a form of dissent and protest, to the idea of burying Marcos in the libingan ng mga bayani. So that started it all, that we were showing na not everybody agrees to the decision of the president, even if he was a Davaoeño. There are people, sabi nga ni Mags, Davao is home to a lot of progressives, the politically progressive, the economically progressive, the technologically progressive. It's just a matter of putting all these minds together para we can, as Jed said, reclaim the space or the Davao that we dream of. Kasi for the longest time, like for the past 35 years, our city has always been governed by the same family name. Na sabi nga ng iba, it's like a family corporation already. And we have not seen better choices or better alternatives. And now, we're showing to the people na for the longest time, kaya yung sinabi ni Jed, when the platform was born, I think people found an opportunity to express their dissent and their the counter culture that we want to offer through the Davao for Leni. And surprisingly, sabi nga, like what happened to you, Father, quietly there are a lot of people na nagme-message, sharing their support na, a lot of people are still inside the closet. Siguro for our part, yung mga nasa fronte ng Davao for Leni, we felt na inside the closet is so dark and hot, so we decided to come out. And we're taking the public space as the voice of those who are yet to find the courage to speak up. And slowly, parang we did not really have a massive recruitment campaign, but it's just snowballing, Father. Parang naturally, organically, they're coming, they're asking how they can be part of the group, especially in days or activities now we come out in the open, like the caravan that happened in October 23.
Yes.
Following that, there were a lot of messages that came in asking kung paano sila makakatulong in, although they would say in quiet, small ways, but we value that a lot, and I can sense, there are a lot, it's just the culture of fear, perhaps, because we don't know
exactly.
what the supporters can do to the opposition here in Davao. So that's why we thought of Davao for Leni as one. It's really a campaigns movement to ensure a counter narrative to the current existing regime. Second, we thought of Davao for Leni as it's a mind changer or impression changer. We want people to think we want people to change their opinion na if you're a Davaoan, you're automatically co-opted by the current administration. I'm sorry for those. I'm not sure if those are the right words.
I'm curious about the conscience. Consciensya Davao?
Consciensya Davao.
I'm curious about that because by the very word conscience, you get to see, of course, because I'm a priest. You get to see that there is a certain spirituality in underlying that movement, diba? Pag-consciensya Davao. Because you're talking about knowing what is good from what is bad and pursuing what is right. That's exactly what conscience is, diba?
Yes.
And if it was still in 2016, diba? 2016 yun, diba?
Yes.
Around that time, I also tweeted. Ang tweet ko doon ay, oo, sinabi ni Jesus na magpatawad, pero hindi niya sinabi sa libingan ng mga bayani. Tapos, it went viral. And it was also the same thing that I experienced. I got a lot of messages from people here who said, Father, I like your tweet. Yun lang yung sinasabi nila with a smile. And then I would say the mass and they were smiling and no one ever approached me, violently. They quietly agreed. But I know that they're also protecting some personal things. Like they're protecting their family, they're protecting their business, etc., which I understand. But the very fact that there is conscience Davao means there are many people who are able to be very, very critical.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, Father. Even during the time of the martial law of Marcos, Davao was among the cities that led the anti-Marcos protest. In fact, the mother of our president, Nanay Suling of Davao, was the leader of the Yellow Friday movement. What an irony.
Correct.
She led the Yellow Friday movement in Davao, staging protests every Friday, and they're wearing yellow. And we can see a parallelism with the Pink Wednesdays we are having at the moment. Na parang it's a rebirth of Nanay Suling's Yellow Friday movement. I was even imagining what could have she said, no, if she were alive today, and her son, no, is supporting the
BBM.
Marcoses. No, that must be very terrible. And I
And very
remember it was,
hurting.
yeah, I remember it was in Ateneo de Davao where Cory Aquino declared her decision to run for snap election against Marcos after I think she had a retreat or soul searching at the Pink Sisters
Yes.
up there in Skyline, and then she declared with the help, of course, and the assistance of Nanay Suling at that time. So I think Davao, no, in its history has always maintained that strong voice, no, of opposition during the Marcos time, and even now, no, even if the president comes from Davao City, yung tawag sa grupo na Konsyensya Davao, no, it was also well thought out because one, at that time, when we were deliberating at the Freedom Park, Father, in front of the school, nakaupo lang kami doon, iilan lang kami, may dala-dala kaming payong na may letters na never forget, never again. We said, how do we call our group? So it all ended up with Konsyensya Davao because one, yung sabi mo kanina, when we decided to oppose, no, the idea of burying Marcos at the libingan ng mga bayani was purely a dictate of our conscience. And second, we said, as Konsyensya Davao, we will serve as the other voice of Davao so that people will start thinking na hindi lang susundin kung anong gusto ng administration, ng pamilya, etc. But people should be led, no, to a reflection, a discernment. Now there are counter narratives, no, to this kind of culture that they are actually creating in Davao. So that's how it all started. And these are the same people, Jed, no, na nasa DFL natin, no, na mga kasama. The same people who were ng Konsyensya Davao.
I guess the both of you, di ba? You use the term reclaim. There's a reclamation of space. Now there's a reclamation of our morals.
Yep.
With conscience.
Yes,
And
yes, Father. Kasi mukhang isa rin sa pinag-usapan namin internally is that we know very well that in 2016, the president, during his campaign, used Davao as his Exhibit A. Now, what he did to Davao, he can do to the rest of the country. And he was bragging about progressive legislations, for example. He used the Women's Development Code, the Women's Children's Welfare Code, or the strict enforcement of the laws like the speed limit, the firecracker, the smoking, etc. We're saying na we cannot attribute that exclusively to him. Hindi yan legacy ni Digong, no? It's not because of him alone why we have those in Davao. For example, these legislations he was bragging about, this is a product of a very strong people's movement in Davao. Kung hindi lang, no, matatapang yung mga kababaihan sa Davao, we would not have the Women's Development Code. Yet, he brags as if it was his masterpiece during the campaign in 2016. That's why we're saying not everything good in Davao also is a Duterte legacy. We must reclaim our campaign. We must reclaim, no, the triumphs we have won as a people in Davao, kasi hindi lahat. Or sinasabing ang galing-galing ng Davao kasi may anti-smoking ordinance, may ganon. We cannot attribute it solely, no, to his leadership because part of that is also on account of the Davaoenos being not only disciplined but also being committed to follow, no, these ordinances. Or our economic progress or development in Davao, we cannot say it's all because of his leadership. We can account that for our strategic location in the BIMP East Asia growth area, no, of Southeast Asia, or because of our climatic conditions that make it very conducive for a lot of businesses to thrive. So all these are factors, but people think Davao is what it is today primarily because of him. No, while he may have contributed to that, after all, no, if we follow our citywide social survey, the satisfaction rating and approval rating of the Duterte is still high at around 90+%. So many people are happy, of course. But what we're saying is that we can say we're happy because we have not seen other brand of leadership in Davao.
Yeah. Pero this is what exactly, Jed, you were saying about demystifying. Demystifying is not really to negate everything, but really to put things into perspective that it cannot be claimed by one person. It is you know, the result of a lot of efforts, and that has to be highlighted, right?
Right. Ang goal is, especially in my capacity, I focus on social media because, number one, we want to change the narrative of what's happening in Davao, or again, like what Attorney Meong said, it's just about tempering people's expectations about what the reality is. I mean, yes, Davao is a progressive city, it's a metropolitan city, but it also took what, more than 2 decades to get there. Diba? So there's and again, I see the power of social media these days, especially nung nagka-pandemic. Everyone is inside and at home, and sole information nila most likely it's coming from the internet. So there's a lot of things that we can introduce just so that they can see that okay, it's not that great. It's great. It's good, but it's not great. I mean, it should not be a template for the whole country. And considering that we are an archipelago, and there are things that could work in one area that may not work in other places. So it's more of what do you call this? More just again tempering the expectation. And also kasi Father, what I'm always thinking is that kaya medyo malakas din ang hila ng myth and all the stories coming from Davao is that it's the first time din na Mindanao has been put in the spotlight because of the right. I've always said na in all national discussions, Mindanao has always been a postscript, and there's a lot of perceptions regarding that. And now that we have a Mindanaoan president, medyo tumaas ang pride ng mga taga Mindanao, and we were thinking that well, finally Mindanao would be put in the spotlight, and that of promise would come to fruition. But then again, that's not the reality. We're still facing the same problems that we have had ever since. So I guess having this as a platform, having Davao for Leni being present as it is now, I hope that would encourage other groups as well in Mindanao to be more vocal. And I guess kaya siguro I have an affinity with educators kasi I like educating people, and it's I'm a trainer by profession, so it's always sharing the knowledge and making sure that there's impact in the knowledge I'm sharing. So
Diba, it's not just about sharing the knowledge, diba? When you teach, kasi you teach values, and you look for examples that can be, exemplars of these values. And sometimes very disappointing if you see leaders who are, instead of promoting values, they promote these values. One of the things that you've said, Jed, that strikes me is that the importance of, first of all, again, the platform, which to me is good, no? In fact, medyo late na tayo ng content, no? Sa totoo lang, late na po tayo kasi nagkaroon din ng parang agam-agam ang mga tao sa Facebook because of all of this fake news or what we call disinformation. So some people have left Facebook, but we forgot that the people who matter, like, who are not, for example, in the academe, who are not into they're the ones who are in Facebook. Many people in the Philippines, many Filipinos, they get information from Facebook, and we forgot that platform. Some of us left. Like I went to Instagram, I personally went to YouTube. I'm one of them. In fact, suddenly I cut Facebook. Only during the pandemic, I returned to Facebook, and then I regretted it. So that's the first thing I think that we have to say. And we also have to give credit that indeed, what the president has given us is that it placed the limelight on Mindanao. But it is not just, like any entertainment, like any show business or any show. It is not so much the limelight. Kahit nakalagay na sa iyo yung light, kung wala ka namang ginagawa, you're typically useless. Diba? So ganun. Nandito na sa Mindanao, people have a consciousness of what Mindanao is all about. Except that, I think we should also not maybe we should not rely on many of our leaders, but this is what excites me now. Maybe people's movements can push the agenda, and that's exactly what you guys are, diba? So that's those are the things. Do you want to add anything? Lester is here pala. He's the director of the Jesuit Music Ministry, and he's a Leni supporter. Hi, Lester. Say hi first.
The background.
Hi, Father. Good evening po. Good evening. Thank you for having me. Hello mga kakampings. Siguro,
po.
Father,
Binawi mo lang sa background,
Oo, kasi wala po akong pink eh. I guess it's very refreshing to hear that there is a movement that is for Leni, different from the stereotype that Davao is camp of President Duterte. Tapos siguro magko-comment lang din ako dun sa sinabi nila na it's not really, and hindi lang siguro sa Davao, no, in other cities as well. The success of a certain city or certain government does not rely just on one person, but it's really a concerted effort of different groups at ng sambayanan, no. I guess that's very important kasi parang yung election sa atin masyadong nagiging personality based and issue based, no.
True. I so totally agree, Sir Lester, no. In fact, may hashtag kaming pinopromote yung issue bago politiko. Although parang
paano kaya natin 'yan? Tara, issue bago politiko.
Oo. Ipa-trend natin, Father. Kasi while we are casting our support for VP Leni, it's actually more than her. It's about good governance. It's good governance that we're supporting. Incidentally, it's VP Leni who banners good governance more than any other candidate. In fact, personally, yung sinasabi ni Father kanina about Mindanao and shifting the limelight and the spotlight to Mindanao, I have to admit, Father, isa ako doon sa mga when Duterte won in 2016, while I voted for Miriam Santiago, may her soul rest in peace, I was also proud that finally a Mindanaoan became a president. Only to be frustrated eventually. Because I have to underscore, he's not the best representation of what Mindanao is. In fact, he is a frustration from my end, or at least personally, my frustration. In fact, I would always say he's a lost opportunity for Mindanao. Because what he has done, no, is actually a disgrace. Sorry to say, but a disgrace to a lot of Mindanaoans. We would have, in fact, no, whenever I had meetings before with my friends from Manila, I would always tell them, "Welcome to the new center." We are now the new capital of the Philippines. I was hoping that with his presidency, he'll be able to bring light, no, to the fringes of the country. Because when he campaigned, he really wanted federalism to empower the regions.
I remember.
The provinces, etc.
Yeah.
But he simply recreated Manila and brought it back to Davao. We're the new imperial center. Diba? Parang ganun. We became the National Convention of all professional associations. In Davao. Kasi he's closer to Davao, madali siyang kunin to speak during the conventions. So naging masyadong matraffic ang Davao since 2016, no? But really, no, when I started my discernment early this January, knowing that the election is fast approaching, I went on some discernment and I listed, no, what I stand for as a person. And given my profession, I work for human rights. I'm an alternative lawyer. No, I work with the people in the margins. I do community engagement, community service. No, I want a clean government, etc. And looking at those names that were already floating early on, I realized na my short list, no, of issues and characteristics that I would want to find in a leader, they all fit, no, in the mold of VP Leni. Kaya mahalaga siguro na mensahe na siguro for everybody listening, try to list down, no, kung ano yung mahalaga para sa inyo. And then try to find out kung kanino nagfi-fit, no, yung mga dala ninyong agenda, dala ninyong mga mga criteria for a leader. It's just sad, Father J-Boy, I think na because right now, the prevailing culture, ang kalaban natin na parang in the prevailing culture now, it looks like it is so cool to be wrong. Pag mali ka, mukhang cool ka na tao.
Yeah,
You're a cool
exactly.
kid. Diba? I find this very disturbing because whenever they describe the platform or the leadership of Leni na malinis, marangal. They say it in a very condescending manner. Then suddenly, I step back and reflect, what is so wrong about being marangal and being malinis? So, kung ayaw nyo ng ganyan, in short, ang dapat ba natin i-promote? Dapat magnakaw, dapat magsinungaling and all. So I think there's something wrong with the way people value yung mga things that are important to society. At kailangan balikan yun.
Yeah.
I like what you said about listing down your values when choosing candidates. I think that will veer us away from more parang yung personality-based election to mas issue-based, no? Siguro, Father, I'm just curious, no? Kung since you guys are from Davao, how's your family reacting to your affiliation with Davao for Leni? Kasi I'm pretty sure there will be several members of your family who are pro Digong. How did they react that you are actively doing this for Leni?
Sama na natin yung friends. Actually, tinanong ko na kanina yung anong epekto dito sa pamilya, sa mga kaibigan, o whatever, or yung social media friends mo. Kaya...
like, how's the conversation during meals, mga ganyan, di ba?
That's rule number 1. Don't talk about politics over dinner.
That's true. That's true. No, from my end, taga Mindanao talaga yung pamilya ko. On my mother's side, taga Osamis, si Papa, taga Davao. And with my immediate family, my mom is very supportive naman. She is in Davao. She works in Davao. It's interesting if you look it up. At nanonood siya ngayon. Sana mahilo.
Hi, Mommy!
And my brother, I have a very small immediate family naman. I guess I was fortunate enough to be raised in a way to be a critical thinker.
Yeah.
Not to follow flow and stuff like that. So family, not so much of an issue. Just reminders to be careful and do what you think is right. When it comes to friends, I guess my roots aren't as deep with a lot of friends. And my family, my friends in Davao, they know naman. They know how it is, and ever since they haven't really paid any attention to my political rants on Facebook and other. Pero yun nga, there is, I guess, a conversation that needs to happen offline. Iba kasi yung personality ng tao online
on
and
social media. That's
correct. Kasi mas matapang sila siguro. And
very, very vicious, no?
Correct. Kaya nga siguro marami na-turn out sa Facebook kasi ang tapang nila, ang ano nila. But going back to, just to add to this, to what Attorney Meong has said, and about personality politics and stuff like that. Just digress a little bit. What I learned, kasi I'm a first-time volunteer in all of this. I have never been this active. Parang for me, I live within my own little bubble of privilege na kasi kahit ano naman mangyari, okay lang ako. But and then again, I'm fortunate enough that this year I met a lot of people who has taught me that masyadong malaki yung fever ngayon sa elections kasi presidential election next year. But what's more important is aside from voter ed, I think to help us veer away from personality politics, we have to have a solid civics education. So people and young people and everyone else would know how it is, what it takes in nation building. Na parang it's not that we're looking for a savior, but everyone plays a role in building the country, in building the nation where we want it to go. And I guess kaya nga masyado tayong na savior complex kasi we always pin our hopes on one person to help us get out of this. And another thing right now is that, and again, babalik ako sa sphere of influence ko, which is social media. The immediate need, I think, that we need to address is, and we need to look at when it comes to deciding who to vote for is, we're still in the middle of the pandemic. And sino ang merong concrete plans to help us not necessarily go back to normal, but to have a more not so restrictive life, especially now. Like, how do we recover from this? There are 4 million people who lost their jobs during the pandemic. And who has plans that is running to help address that? Yeah.
One of the things that you've been saying, I think that is very important. Let's muna, marami nagko-comment sa Facebook. Hello, Jean. Sabi niya, kapag pinag-usapan daw ang politika, maraming mababasag na pinggan. Yan. So, tama ba? May mga gusto kong pick upin yung lahat, yung mga sinabi ni Jed. Pero isa-isa. Una, meron bang sa inyo na wala ng kaibigan o kaya unfriending sa social media? May experience ka ba? Ikaw, Meong?
Ako, Father, as a matter of policy, I don't block, I don't unfriend. I want them to suffer from my posts. Even if they don't like my post, bahala silang mabasa nila. But I don't block or I don't unfriend people in social media. I'm not sure if they unfriended me, but it's fine. But of course, I received some trollings with my post or in the Davao for Leni post. And with my friends and with my family, I'm the kind of person talaga noon na talaga makikipag-away at makikipag-debate kasi, ang bunganga ko naman, minsan di ko mapigilan and all. But it was recently, when VP Leni shared her statements, yung tinamaan talaga ako dun sa sinabi niya, Father, na madaling makipagtalo pero mas radikal ang magmahal. Yes, yun to me has a lot of meaning. So, para ngayon, it's slowly talking to them, and explaining to them why. In small talks, when people would ask, would friends and family would ask, bakit si Leni ang sinusuportahan mo? And then, I share to them piece by piece why, kung bakit si Leni ang sinusuportahan, why not the other candidates. Now, even in my family, there came a point na may mga disagreements din kami with my mother, especially nung kasagsagan ng issue with Senator Leila de Lima. She has a lot of conclusions na I started question, asa kagikan sa imong mga information? Saan galing yung mga information? Bakit nakakonclude ka naman ganyan, and all? So, and the mother that she is, ang sagot ko lang naman, pinag-aral mo ako in one of the best schools in the country for nothing. Hindi mo ako pinag-aral for nothing. I was trained by Ateneo to become a critical thinker. And I think people around me would always have that respectful distance somehow when we talk about politics. I mean, we have a lot of colleagues in the university, Father, na we don't really align with in terms of politics and other matters. But yung tawag ko nga, it's about principled critical collaboration.
Principled critical collaboration.
Yes.
Gusto ko yan,
In areas where we can work together, let's join hands.
Yes.
But in areas na we cannot agree on, just allow ourselves to proceed differently because it might mean World War III if pilitin nating magtrabaho tayo. And this disagreement or being critical has to be based on certain principles that you hold dear. And sa DFL recently, we also crafted our parang principles of unity as a movement. May mga ginawa din kaming ganun.
Yeah, because unity does not mean we are all the same, no?
Yeah.
In terms of our positions, principles, in terms of even our experiences, even how we do things. Unity in fact embraces diversity, diba?
Yeah.
That's why I think part of the things that the vice president has been campaigning for is a change of attitude.
True.
Kasi kung mang-aaway tayo, kumbaga, pareho na tayo sa kanila. We're all of the same species.
True.
We have to be different. That means we have to be counter-cultural or counter-character. In fact, that's exactly what you guys have been saying when Jed said that and Meong said that this is beyond the VP. Diba? This is beyond the VP. It's just that as of the moment, she is the one who espouses the things that we believe in that should also be cultivated. So sometimes it's lacking, it's wanting in our society to be critical. It is wanting in our society that we become more issue-based. But she's the one who supports that. And I think that is what makes her very attractive. And in fact, Jed, correct me if I'm wrong. You said something about it is not just about voters' ed, right?
Yes.
But it is more. You've said something which I forgot. I'm sorry.
I said civic education.
Yes, civic education. Because to us, for Meong and I, we call it engaged citizenship. It's the same thing, which means that that we train ourselves to be active in politics, not just when there's an education, diba? Not just when there is an election. Dapat prior to that, diba? Prior to that, dapat long before any election, we have to teach each other to be critical of our decisions, diba? I think those are the things that I picked up. And I hope I got it right, no?
Yes, Father. Yep.
Yan.
And even after election, Father.
Yes. Ibig sabihin, the challenge that we have who are training, that means you, Jed, and us, Meong and I, we are all in education. We are now saying that we are also challenging those who are here, listening to us, that if you're in education, to consider formation vis-a-vis engagement, citizen engagement, even after the elections. Ito yung tinatawag nating win or lose.
Agree.
Diba? Am I right?
Yes, of course, Father. The problem with most Filipinos, Father, is our democracy is described as parang delegative democracy. Filipinos feel na our democracy ends during election. Kasi people have already exercised their right to vote. Bahala na kung sino ang nanalo. Not realizing that the more important part of democracy is institution building, which comes right after election. We have to monitor and safeguard all the institutions that protect our freedoms, our liberties. Kaso ang ating uri ng demokrasya, ang mga Pinoy, pag nakaboto na, okay na, I have already participated in my social duty to vote. Kung sino man ang na-elect na presidente, bahala na siya kung paano niya patatakbuhin ang bansa.
Or kasi sabi natin, hindi na natin na-form yung mga tao na ang alagaan na ang bawat tao sa gobyerno ay may accountability.
True.
Diba? Pero hindi lang sila, diba? Palagay ko yun yung nakikita kong medyo kulang. Tama nga naman na aangkla ka sa mga leaders natin.
Right.
Diba? Kasi sila naman talaga yung nakaluklok and they have the power. But they represent us. That means we should also be accountable for whom we have voted for.
True.
Right. And I guess, Father, the pandemic has highlighted those lapses and those gaps talaga.
Yeah.
We see the failure of our healthcare system. We see that there were no safety nets for the jeep riders and all those workers na lose it. And I guess for us to move towards a more engaged citizenry is to help people understand na we have a lot of things at stake when we hold the government accountable. Then parang, do we still want na our healthcare to be like this? Pagka nagkaroon uli ng isang malaking pandemic, mangangapa na naman ba tayo? Or do we still want na we just rely on ayuda kasi, or minsan wala pa nga, kasi nga walang trabaho, walang and I guess it's one way to engage them is to tell them and make them realize that what matters to them would also mean that holding our government and our leaders accountable, not just not just voting for them kasi feeling natin sila ang makakatulong sa atin, but our part is also to help them understand na these are our needs and these needs need to be met.
May gusto akong sabihin tungkol sa education dyan, di ba? Yung tipong maraming mga magulang, iiwan yung kanilang anak sa school, tapos ang akala nila wala na silang parental responsibility, yung mga teachers na yung parents. Pero hindi, di ba? Dapat kasama tayo sa education, sa bahay man o kaya sa school, di ba? Parang ganun din ang nangyayari sa atin. Kapag linuklok na natin sila dyan, o bahala na sila, basta ayusin yung buhay namin. Where in fact, hindi, di ba? We have to let them know that we are watching them also and we are willing to participate and contribute, right? May sinabi ka kanina, Jed, na struck me also. Di ba yung sabi mo kanina, kung wala naman akong gagawin, okay lang naman kasi I live in my own personal bubble. I'll be fine. Okay. For many of us, that includes myself, na tipo, I can also say the same thing. Except that, indeed, the pandemic has highlighted all the things that is that is lacking, wanting, the mismanagement, all of those. Because even if you are in your own bubble, you are already affected. Yung alam mong dati noon mga 2020, parang malayo pa yung virus. Hanggang sa little by little, ako mismo bilang pare, no? Dati noon, ang minimisahan ko isa-isang tao namamatay. Hanggang sa pamilya-pamilya na. Tapos kilala mo na sila. Tapos biglang pumapasok na ng Ateneo. Sa Ateneo biglang meron ng kahit nag-lockdown kami at lahat na. Because the reality of that mismanagement becomes very, very palpable. I mean, what do you think about what I've said?
It is, and it makes sense kasi you got to realize na kasi it's so widespread and it's sad because all levels, and tama ka, with this pandemic, lalo na sa Facebook, especially early this year, parang everyday may naging online obituary na si Facebook.
Oo, yung parang puro black at saka may candle. Tapos kahit nung undas sabi ko, parang yung cemetery na lipat sa social media. Pero lahat yun sinasabi nila namatay sa COVID o sa complications because of COVID. Or kahit hindi COVID, hindi sila nakakapasok ng ospital kasi punong-puno na ng pasyente o ayaw na nilang dalhin sa ospital, baka lalong magkasakit.
Diba? I think many of those issues you mentioned, the social divide, the mismanagement or bad governance, etc., I think these have already been in existence even prior to the pandemic. What the pandemic has done is made it even more apparent, for people to realize. Now people are they started thinking how important barangay elections, for example, is, because they have seen how wanting their leaders are in times of the pandemic. Ang mga barangay officials are supposed to be in the front line, and some barangay officials were not there for them. So ngayon people will start taking seriously the election for the barangay, because governance really matters in times of crisis like this. It's just sad that I think on the overall, tayo na lang yata natitirang bansa sa Asia, or across the globe, na we're still struggling with all the different classifications ng restrictions. While the rest have already declared freedom from the pandemic, tayo we're still classifying our restrictions in the country.
The social media has greatly influenced many of our perceptions. And do you think, though painful, we are not denying the pain that comes with mismanagement, or comes with corruption, that comes with the pandemic? Do you think that it has also made many of us realize what matters vis-a-vis politics?
Yeah. I think it has taught us many lessons, Father, especially going into the 2022 elections. I hope really people would think how important leadership is emerging from this pandemic, kasi very critical moving forward post-pandemic on how we rebuild the country, especially the economy. Ang daming ang memes sa social media ngayon. Iaasa mo ba ang ekonomiya sa isang magnanakaw or sa isang boksingero, or sa isang kanino mo iaasa ang ekonomiya ng
May nakita nga ako, porn star yung nakalagay.
Ay, may porn star. Kasali ang porn star.
Oo, pero kawawa naman siyempre si Isko, hindi naman yung porn star.
Oo. Yeah. Ano lang yun? Soft porn.
Oo, guys. Oo nga. Pero ito, may tanong ko, kung babalik tayo dun sa movement, yung Davao for Leni. Gusto ko lang tanong, and curious ako, paano kung matalo si Leni? Ano mangyayari?
I think well, we will be very sad kasi kinampanya natin siya. But following the VP's words, na ang laban hindi naman natatapos sa eleksyon. Ang laban tuloy-tuloy yan. Whoever wins, we have to accept that, because that's how election works. But we will try to carry on with the values and principles na gustong anong tawag dyan? Palaganapin, i-embrace ni VP Leni. And perhaps a movement like DFL might be converted into something else. It can be a bigger Konsensya Pilipinas or Konsensya Davao, who will continue to monitor and be watchful with what the next administration would do, and always call its attention if ever it strays its ways from what we believe is good governance for the country. So I think parang ganon. Siyempre, mag-ano muna, Father, magluluksa muna.
Magluluksa muna tayo. Dadaanan natin yung process of mourning.
Of grieving. Yeah. Pero kasi, Father, what is interesting about what's happening now is that although, siyempre, medyo biased ako kasi social media ang source ko, but the spirit of volunteerism, mas ramdam mo siya ngayon. People are now starting to do individual actions that impact a lot of people. And I guess and hopefully it won't happen, but if the VP would lose, the practices that we have started now would still continue. Hindi pa rin naman tapos ang pandemya. We would still help others. We would still be looking out for each other. Because Davao for Leni wasn't just built to support a personality. It was built to espouse the values that what we see in VP is something that we can do ourselves. And so in the long run, sustainable naman siya, I think, as a movement. Just to share the power of social media, when we asked for fundraising 2 weeks ago, we raised more than 250,000 in 3 days just because of the reach of the social media. But it also shows you and tells you that people are willing to help.
Yes.
I think it negated the fact na after 2 years in the pandemic, meron na tayong donors fatigue. But hindi eh. There are people now who want to see genuine change, who want to see help, who want to help talaga, and sana ma-maintain yan, even who gets to be in power. The seeds have been planted, I hope, and it gets to be something bigger than us talaga.
Yeah. You mentioned about demystifying. You said we would like to demystify Davao and just present what Davao really is. But we are also recipients of demystifying, that we are also tearing down all of our biases. Like, for example, we never expected that people are willing to help, and they're still very, very generous. Even when times are very hard, they give and support. And second, yes, tama nga, yung volunteerism, you get to see that sprouting everywhere. And third, that is to me very, very positive, people's movements. It springs out organically. And I think one of the things that I guess the vice president has been doing, I think she inspired people to be empowered. Yung parang, alam mo, parang ulan. Kung walang ulan, hindi tutubo yung tanim. But that too can be transferred to individual people who have been very audacious and courageous. And I guess that's also what you guys have been doing. Sabi nga ni Meong kanina, everybody, there was a time when you were in the closet and it's hot, and di ba yung loko-loko natin na ngayon sige, sinasabi nyo, eto, Leni talaga ako, ganyan. It inspired other people to be more courageous and say, ako din. Suddenly, meron ng Pink Wednesdays.
Yeah. True.
So,
I think the movement father is not only campaigning for VP Leni to win, but it's also parang exemplifying the good morals and right conduct, GMRC, that we used to teach to the
GMRC talaga. Bigyan naalala ko.
GMRC to the rest of the people, that nobody is too rich to receive and nobody is too poor to give in times of in times of emergencies like this. No, kailangan magtulungan, no. And I think there's a lot of bayanihan spirit in there na pwedeng paghugutan ng aral, no. And I think, no, I will quote Mags when we were planning for her candidacy. She said, "It's acceptable to lose. After all, no, we're hitting a huge name, especially in Davao. But what is unacceptable is that we lose without mounting a very decent campaign. So we have to do our very best, no, to really ensure the victory of the candidates we're supporting. But if not, at least, no, we have sent a very clear message across the country about correcting the myth in Davao, for example, for Davao for Leni. And people would, whoever will be elected would start watching their backs. Na there are people, no, who can call them out, no, if ever they do the wrong things. And I think that's what we need to sustain even beyond 2022 elections.
Yeah, I think for Mags, no, sayang na wala din si Mags, no.
Yeah.
For her to be courageous enough to run against Pulong, di ba? Actually protects democracy.
True.
Because if no one is running, that would create, more, like, for example, an autocratic government. that would create this myth again that they are so powerful, nobody's gonna run against them.
Yeah.
But by the very fact that someone did, is a good sign, and it is a good sign for many people that democracy is still alive, and there are many people who are willing to give their lives for the betterment of the country.
Yeah.
Diba?
That's huge enough na somebody took the challenge, no, to run against the institution in Davao City. But our aim is not only to challenge. Our aim is really to take down a Duterte in Davao.
that's pretty obvious. No, I guess no, like what you mentioned about how we have to process many of the, as I've said, like Julius Caesar at the Rubicon River, deciding whether he will go and save Rome from corruption or not, and be just in his own bubble in northern Italy. Um, the important thing is that we are made to make the right decisions, and to make the right decisions, critical thinking is very important. You cannot do critical thinking if you don't have an option.
True.
May imagine mo yun kung wala kang option, parang ka naman mag-iisip, mahirap, gagaling, kakabot ka, tawag sa'yo nga. Wala kang choice. Diba? But to make the critical choice, that is important. Ngayon may tanong ako, no, before one of our last questions in this radio, no, parang, is this, no, what can the Davao for Leni contribute if given a chance? What would be the issues that you will first kumbaga, try to respond to? What are your priorities, for example, that sana this will be the priorities of the vice president, just in case she wins, diba? What do you think should be the first issue, and then the rest?
Sige, well,
ano muna?
Father, while we have an advisory board in Davao for Leni that is tasked in crafting the people's agenda for Mindanao, na i-offer namin sa Robredo People's Council as they are crafting also the platform of VP Leni. But ako personally, kung tatanungin, hindi na ako lalayo. It has been our struggle for the longest time, no, mining and environment, no, in the country, because it's one of the sources ng frustration I have, no, with the current president, because we're offering the country to be raped by a lot of mining, no, and destroying our natural resources. I recall back in 2006, was it 2006? No, 2016. No, yeah, 2016, when we had our Oya Mindanao in the university with then DNR Secretary Gina Lopez and of course the president, where he promised, no, that he will not allow the destruction of the lands in Mindanao, and that he said he will clip the wings of the oligarch if they will destroy our natural resources. But of course, recently we know that he signed Executive Order 130, which reopens the application for mining in the country, lifting the moratorium, belies all the promise he made in 2016. So based on my personal knowledge of VP Leni, she has worked, no, as a lawyer for Saligan, and Saligan is also known, no, as an alternative law group, no, protecting the environment. I think, no, one of the things she needs to consider is protecting the Philippine natural resources and Philippine environment, because all other things would be useless if we lose our common home. We can always regenerate jobs, but we can never recreate an earth.
Yes, we cannot. That's exactly the point of Pope Francis in Laudato Si. So, malaking usapan ng mining. Pwede isang programa pa dito, di ba? No, guys, for those who are listening, if you don't know these things, no, do you know that Mindanao is rich in natural resources, except that it's being raped, honestly. And there is a blockage in terms of news. You don't know it in the national, but if you get to talk to many of our indigenous peoples, if you talk to people who are within our river systems, they are all affected. You will just be surprised, I guess, when suddenly when you go to the middle part of Mindanao, or where people are not going because of the peace and order situation. That's actually that's actually what makes us very, very afraid to go there. You'll get to see it's all brown.
True.
Diba?
And I'm even scared all the more, Father, because the Philippine government sent as representative to the COP26 in Glasgow, our
Exactly.
finance secretary. I don't know what message we can get there. It's the Department of Finance Secretary Dominguez who is there in a
Is
climate
also
change conference. So what does that
yes.
mean?
Would you
And
rather have our DNR secretary go there, who's also ex-military?
They're all the same bunch.
Yeah.
yes, exactly. No, that's one of the things that we want to change. That we place the people who are fit for that job, who
True.
has the heart to protect the environment, not people who would, in their job description and to protect the environment, but they're the ones who will not because of their
True.
because of personal gain. And
True.
yeah, those things. Even the pandemic, diba? You get to see that the pandemic. Why would you assign, for example, someone palpak na nga, paulit-ulit, pero siya pa rin, no? Ano to, barkada system? O kaya, so I'm sorry to say that, guys. But no, I'm not, I will stand by, by what I've
Yeah.
said.
I agree,
Or,
Father.
diba? Or
I agree
put
with you.
a military person for something that that person does not know anything about.
True.
That to me kasi is incompetence.
Yeah.
Oh.
I have said this in other forums also that the DNA of this administration is militarism. He has militarized his cabinet. He has militarized the pandemic response. He has militarized the drug campaign.
Yeah.
Although we know also that the drug issue is a public health issue, but he has all the ex-militaries or military generals in the front line. Even our NCIP is headed by an ex-military, the
Yes.
National Commission on Indigenous Peoples. No wonder, no, you have a resolution from NCIP denouncing the term lumad as if it's associated with the CPP, NPA, NDF. And that can only come from a military mindset. So I think that his comfort zone, because when he was mayor in Davao City, he tapped a lot, no, from our security sector to deliver his programs and projects. And it cannot just be the same for the country. Unlike other countries, di ba, Canada, I understand, no, in their health ministry, it's a public health expert, no, in their
even Taiwan.
Yeah, even Taiwan. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And that's what makes the kalayaan mula sa COVID platform ni VP Leni.
Yes,
so
exactly.
It just makes sense. Now you have a health-based approach, you have an economic approach, and you have an education-based approach, and all of them would tap into the experts of those fields. And na nakikita mo that there's genuine concern about these sectors. And not just to appease the friends who might be helping her, but to really dig into solutions that are, number one, health-based, and number two, are would defer to the experts, the real experts, instead of those using a yardstick. But yeah, I mean, and that's the big. I guess that's what we need to highlight when choosing our leaders, is to understand na the people that we need to lead us are the people who would also know who to tap to help us.
And I think the important thing is the effect on people. If you get to see a very clear roadmap, you get to see a plan that involves a lot of people tapping on their expertise. And at the same time, you get to see that this roadmap has a very clear clientele or target. Because, our economic system, our economic one is really, really, very, very wide. And there are many people who would need a lot of attention in the pandemic, such as those who are very, very poor. There are people who might need special care, especially those who have comorbidities. All of those has to be understood by someone who is really in that field and how things has to be done. And to see that you have a clear, plan is important for people and governance. That the people know that meron tayong sinusundan na plano. Di ba? it nurtures trust, and that's a very good sign of good leadership. It also nurtures a certain empowerment that everyone is valued, not just one sector like the military. These are the things that's important in terms of building people.
Mm.
Uh, not ruling the country in a culture of distrust and fear.
Yeah. I think we
Father,
have... Sorry.
Ayan,
Father,
sorry,
sorry.
sorry Lester.
Father, meron lang po ang question. Kanina kasi 'di ba pinag-usapan natin what if VP Leni loses. Siguro yung tanong ko lang, what if VP Leni wins? And there are say for example, policies or concerns that you do not agree with. How does I'm not sure if it's something that is already part of the conversation. Maybe in the future, but what do you think about that? Policies that you do not agree in the future if she wins.
Meron akong sasagot dyan, pero gusto ko marinig muna si Meong at saka si Jed. Jed, sa tingin mo? O Meong?
Sige. I think from the very nature and essence of DFL, which stands against the narrative of blind obedience, I don't think we will follow blindly, the wrong policies that VP Leni may wish to pursue if ever she wins. We will continue to be very vocal about our dissent and opposition. We will watch. Of course, she has more burdens to carry now, considering that it's a people's movement that should she win, it's the people's movement that made her win. So medyo mas mabigat ang karga-karga niyang responsibilidad because more eyes will be watching over her. So it doesn't mean na pag nanalo siya, we will blindly follow everything because that's not digressing really away from the current narrative. Because the current narrative, sad to say, no offense meant to the supporters, many, I'm not saying all, have blindly followed just because he is from Davao or he is from Mindanao. They never question him. So we will continue to be critical. As I said earlier, I'm always coming from that point of view na principled critical collaboration.
Right. And
I'd like to...
Sige. Sorry.
Babasahin ko lang yung sinabi ni Patricia ang Sarenas. Kilala niyo siya? Sabi niya,
yes, po.
Daghan salamat Meong for providing the historical perspective of dissent in Davao and the rest of Mindanao. 60s, 70s pa. The Yellow Friday movement and the Conscientia Davao amplified that there has always been people who would oppose tyranny and despotic rule and the corruption and violence that happened. So maraming salamat. Pat, maraming salamat for this comment of yours. Thank you for participating. Okay, anyone who would like to respond to that? And Jed?
Yeah. And basing it off really sa nature the Vice President. Again, this is not Leni worship, but you can see it through her actions. The reason why she decided to declare so late is because of multiple consultations with different sectors. And if that's her nature ever since she started politics, if she wins and she pushes a policy or an agenda that we may not agree with, I'm pretty sure that she would listen to the dissent and to the criticism. There is parang that's a stark difference between how things are run now na kung ayaw mo lagot ka mumurahin ka pa on national TV, right? But there's always this trust but not adulation. There's trust that the VP or Leni would listen and Leni would genuinely reach out to those who will be affected by those policies. And again, part ng democracy natin yan we hold, we've been talking about this kanina pa, we hold them accountable when they get elected.
I guess, yung sinasabi ninyo ni rin, Meong at saka ni Jed, ito yung sagot ko kanina, Lester, no? Kung manalo si VP Leni, I am sure there will be space for dissent. And that space will be respected. And the person who is dissenting, who does not agree, will not be, hindi mumurahin, hindi papatayin, hindi matatakutin. hindi hindi i-coerce, o kaya hindi ko alam at parang merong ganon, o kaya bibilhin yung opinion. There will be space, and I think that would be the beauty of a government that will be different from this present one. Next, Holy Hour bigla, Holy Hour. Okay, sige. We have 5 minutes more, but I'd like to ask this question. No? There are many people who are watching us, and we will be sharing this to people, through Facebook and our social media accounts. Now, you have the Davao for Leni Movement with us as guests, and you are all here. No? There are many people who are still afraid. I guess, no, here in Mindanao, or maybe in other parts of our country. What would you tell them, guys?
Ang hirap.
Ano ba? Pa-Miss Universe ba to?
Oo. You only have 30 seconds to answer. After that, you will hear the chime.
Hindi naman kami ganon.
Well, what do I tell them? No, I would tell them it's okay to be afraid. I cannot blame you for that. It's the current administration that cultivated that fear in you for the longest time. But rest assured that we have Davao for Leni, which wants to present itself as a support group. No, it's a group where we value mutual help, defense, and support. It's a group where you can be yourself and you can share your thoughts. Now, while you are building on that courage, we will continue to soften the ground and prepare the public space so that when the time comes that you have already mustered the courage to speak, it will be a lot easier for you. And just know na hindi ka nag-iisa. Marami tayo at I'm sure dadami pa tayo in the future.
At hindi matatapos ang Davao for Leni sa election.
Yes.
That means ang support laging nandyan. Tama?
Opo.
Right. Sabi nga ni VP Leni, tumindig ka at kung ikaw ay lilingon, merong kasamang titindig sa'yo. And I guess that's the message that the Davao for Leni would like to relay to everyone. Na yes, there's a time for fear, but there's also a place for you to feel safe, to speak your mind, and we would listen to you. Because everyone has their own pace. Everyone may not be as vocal and as public as we are, but know that with Davao for Leni, you have and you will get support.
True.
Hi, ganyan. Pero we are not discounting the fact, guys, na even with the inspiration of many people who came out with their own positions vis-a-vis the elections or even vis-a-vis issues, it will always need courage. Courage from you. Courage from the individual. Because at the end of the day, ikaw talaga ang magde-decide. Kahit grabe ka pa ka-inspired, kung hindi ka magde-decide, parang wala rin. Di ba?
True.
And, pero, bakit ka matatakot kung, matatakot ka nga. Siyempre, I do not want to deny, di ba? To negate our feelings. Matatakot ka nga. Pero, at least, meron kang encouragement na may mga nagganon, pero okay lang sila. O, tinan mo, buhay na buhay silang dalawa. Buhay na buhay sila. Ganyan. So yun, no? I think it is very important for us to be able to hear people from Davao that indeed, hindi lahat ng Davaoenos ay DDS. Pero mas maganda siguro sabihin natin, hindi lahat ng mga tao sa mga tinatawag nating baluarte ay namumuhay sa loyalty lang o sa blind obedience lang. hindi lahat. Dahil maraming mga tao ay nag-iisip na. At makikita natin yan sa iba't ibang dako, lalo-lalo na social media, kasi lahat tayo ay online ngayon. Diba?
True.
Hi! Again, sobrang meron kayong gustong sabihin bago tayo mag-end ng ating program? Meong, final words? Next, final word talaga.
Final words. Well, just a word of thanks, Father, sa Radyo Katipunan and Hugot Hour for providing us this platform and this space. Baka i-attack ka, no? Bakit kami lang yung binigyan mo ng platform? But of course, no? Gumawa din siguro sila ng kanilang programa pero para meron silang platform for them. But thank you very much, no? In this way, we're able to assure, no, our friends who are still voiceless to find that courage, no, knowing the fact na may kasama sila, may kakamping sila in every nook and corner of the country. It's not also saying na hindi rin kami natakot, no? We were also afraid, no? I was even joking around na I'm taking the bullet, no, and I have a hit mark on my forehead already. May red dot na ako dito. But I'm consoled by the fact that there are people who are willing and who will be there for me, no, in the Davao for Leni. And also, no, the idea na if you will not stand up against the current regime, then forever, no, we will be doomed. Sabi nga ni Dante Alighieri sa kanyang Inferno, di ba? If you remain neutral in times of moral crisis, the hottest room in hell is reserved for you.
For you.
Mas takot ako sa hottest room in hell, Father.
Huwag kang malala, baka ako pa yung hihilain mo.
Sama-sama tayo doon.
Sama-sama tayo. Maraming salamat, Meong, talaga. Jed!
Thank you, Father, for giving us this opportunity to talk about things and to talk about Davao for Leni then and just to communicate with others who, again, like what Meong said, who might be hesitant or scared. But ito lang masasabi ko, and isa to sa mga viral post ng Davao for Leni, na nilike ni VP Leni mismo, hindi ka nag-iisa. Salamat.
Yeah. Dax. At saka ang maganda, maraming salamat, Jed and Meong. Kasi importante din sa akin personally, no, as host ng The Hugot Hour, na mailabas talaga natin ang pagmumukha talaga ng lahat ng mga movements na to. Na makita mo, ordinaryong tao na nagkakaroon ng tamang kapangyarihan. Na makita na maaari nating baguhin ang ating mundo dahil sa ating sariling kakayahan. Kailangan lang ng ating courage. 'Di ba? So yun, ang magandang makita ang mga kwento ninyo. At ito sinasabi ko rin, no? Sana malaman ko rin yung kwento ng ibang movements. 'Di ba? I'm sure meron din silang ibang kwento kung bakit biglang nagkaroon sila ng movement ng halimbawa Hong Kong for Leni o kaya mga singles for Leni o yung mga pogi para kay Leni, yung mga gano'n, di ba?
Manginginom para kay Leni.
Manginginom para kay Leni. Gusto ko talagang malaman kung ano talaga yung motivation nila kung bakit meron silang ganung klaseng movement. Kasi di ba, it's a people's movement. So all sorts of people can put up their own. And I think the Davao for Leni has given us a great example. Okay, so again, maraming salamat. We end with my final words. Sinimulan ko kanina sa pag-introduce ko nito ay tungkol kay Julius Caesar. At in the Rubicon River, kung saan magde-decide na siya kung will he cross the Rubicon, so magkakaroon na ng civil war or not. And then he said something. Sabi niya, Alea iacta est. The dice is cast. Ibig sabihin, on one hand, if you roll the dice, you may win or you may lose. Isang pagtataya. On the other hand, if you hold the dice only, you cannot possibly win. The Rubicon factor really drives the courage to act even as it creates a fear of failing to act or even exposing the illusion of the apparent safety of what we call an inaction, yung wala kang ginagawa. The reasonable decision, I think, is not necessarily the safe decision, di ba? Tonight, we saw two remarkable characteristics from our interviewees. The choice between and among high-stakes alternatives, and second, the very decision that must be made, that it cannot be avoided, but to do it. So again, maraming salamat kay Meong, kay Jed, at kahit na rin kay Mags. Mags, maraming salamat and thank you too for your courage. Maybe next time you'll be part of our interview here. Again, for Davao, for Leni people, maraming salamat. So guys, kindly support them. Follow them on Twitter. It's at Davao for Leni on Twitter, and look for them in Facebook and join the movement. Okay. I guess even if you're not from Davao, you can join the movement. Am I right? No? So anyway, if you have topics that concerns you and you would like me to consider them here at the Hugot Hour, please message me on my social media accounts. Always at JBoy Gonzales SJ on Twitter, Instagram, my YouTube channel, and my TikTok. And of course, watch out for my upcoming podcast. It's called jescom podcast. Juice, because juiciest topic with God, jescom. So talking about many thorny topics within the ambit of faith. So you see this on Spotify or listen to it on Spotify. So good night, everyone. Again, Lester, maraming salamat for joining us. Lester is the director of the Jesuit Hour. So once again, this is Father JBoy, your host, and wishing you a great week.
Ayun.
The Hugot session is now closed. See you next week for another episode of the Hugot Hour with Father JBoy and friends. Subscribe to Father JBoy on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok at JBoy Gonzales SJ and radyo-katipunan socials for more Hugot. This has been the Hugot Hour with Father JBoy and friends.
Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.